Hello, this is the 287th edition of Catch of the Day, available on the Branch Talk YouTube channel. Today we're going to continue reading from a book written by Trent Wildy, entitled The King of Crisis in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Starting at the top of page 55, first paragraph, we read, "The question of religious liberty needs to be clearly comprehended by our people in more ways than one. With outstretched arms, men are seeking to steady the ark, and the anger of the Lord is kindled against them because they think that their position entitles them to say what the Lord's servants shall do and what they shall not do. They think themselves competent to decide what shall be brought before God's people and what shall be repressed. The Lord inquires of them, Who has required this at your hand? Who has given you the burden of being conscience for my people? By what spirit are you guided and controlled when you seek to restrict their liberty? I have not chosen you, as I chose Moses, as men through whom I can communicate divine instruction to my people. I have not placed the lines of control in your hands. The responsibility that rests on Moses of voicing the words of God to the people has never been delegated to you." MS5 1-1895.2. Moses was especially chosen to be the visible leader of the children of Israel. Through long years of discipline, he learned the lesson of humility, and he became a man whom God could teach and guide. He endured as seeing him who is invisible. God trusted him, a daily learner in the school of Christ, with the leadership of the host of Israel. God talked with him face to face, as a man talketh with his friend. He was meekest. He was the meekest of all men. He did not seek to control the Holy Spirit, but was himself controlled by the Spirit. MS 51-1895.3. As a people, we should study God's plans for conducting his work. Wherever he has given directions in regard to any point, we should carefully consider how to regard his expressed will. This work should have special attention. It is not wise to choose one man as president of the General Conference. The work of the General Conference has extended, and some things have been made unnecessarily complicated. A want of discernment has been shown. There should be a division of the field, or some other plan should be devised to change the present order of things. LT 24A 1896.1. Instead of advancing the work themselves, insufficient workers have cast their responsibilities on the President of the General Conference. Thus, burdens that were altogether too heavy have been brought upon one man. And if that one man's mind becomes warped or clouded in any way, then a wrong mold is given to the work. It may be urged that there is a General Conference committee, and each of our institutions has a board of directors, and they will carry the burden. But if one or more of these men are leavened with a spirit that God cannot favor, and yet they are retained in the work, they will leaven the president of the conference. If he is in any way dull of comprehension, if he for any cause permits his staunch, faithful workers, men who are true to principle, to leave him, and the cause of God is imperiled. LT24A 1896.2. And yet men in positions of trust have been and are being educated to submit all their plans to the counselors at Battle Creek, to be pronounced upon, approved, or disapproved by men. How long shall this departure from the Lord's arrangement continue? Men have such a burning desire to stretch themselves beyond their measure. They wish to be regarded as authority on all things relative to the work of God in all parts of the world. But this is not God's plan. The men who compose the councils at Battle Creek have for years been very defective in character. Their own spirit and judgment have leavened the plans and recommendations presented to the workers in different fields. If the people are so blinded that they cannot discern this, God sees it, and it is an offense to him. LT24A 1896.8. The Lord has his appointed agencies, and if these are not discerned and respected by those who are connected with his work, if men feel free to disregard God's requirements, they must not be kept in positions of trust. They would not listen to counsel nor to the commands of God through his appointed agencies. Like Saul, they would rush into a work that was never appointed them, and the mistakes they would make in following their human judgment would place the Israel of God where their leader could not reveal himself to them. Sacred things would become mingled with the common. Y.I. November 17, 1898, paragraph 11. Depending on men has been the great weakness of the church. Men have dishonored God by failing to appreciate his sufficiency, by coveting the influence of men. Thus Israel became weak. The people wanted to be like the other nations of the world, and they asked for a king. They desired to be guided by human power which they could see rather than by the divine theocracy, the invisible power which till then had led and guided them and given them victory in battle. They made their own choice, and the result was seen in the destruction of Jerusalem and the dispersion of the nation. NS 159, 1899.13. How plain, in light of these statements, how do you think we should go about seeking a solution to the current problem in the church? Think on it as you continue reading, and we'll come back to it. Ellen White wrote the above statements because they needed to be written. Kingly power was on the rise, and it all came to a head in 1901. On April 1st, the day before the GC session, Ellen gave a talk to some of the leading men. Here is some of what she said. Take care for now.